Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you are in the world or whatever time you'll be watching this video. So guys, as most of you in the Jamaican diaspora knows, is that the Jamaica 2025 elections will be held on September 3rd. Now, the two forerunners for the elections are the Jamaica Labour Party, whose head is Dr. Andrew Holness, and vying for Prime Minister is Mr. Mark Golding of the People's National Party. Now, both parties have come out with manifestos. This is, basically the format on which they're running their election campaigns. And the PNP, their mission is Jamaica Love, and it's called A Pledge to Country. And of the of the People's National Party, their mission, they have some pillars. So the pillars of their mission, Jamaica Love, are J for justice, A for access to quality education, M for modern infrastructure, A for agriculture and food security, I for innovation and industry, C for care for the vulnerable and health services, A for accountability in governance, L for land, housing and ownership, O for opportunity for youth, V for violence prevention and safer communities, and E for environmental resilience. Now, let us look at the first pillar, and that is justice for all. Now, the manifesto reads, justice demands more than laws. It requires an environment that upholds the dignity of all who serve and seek it. We are committed to upgrading and expanding the physical infrastructure of courts across Jamaica to ensure they are safe, accessible, and adequately equipped. Judges must have secure and functional chambers. Court staff must work in conditions that support efficiency and well-being, and litigants, especially those in rural and underserved communities, deserve facilities that reflect the seriousness of the matters being adjudicated. So, the constitutional reform for sovereignty and justice. So, it goes to say we will pursue constitutional amendments through a transparent and participatory process that engages all stakeholders from the ground up. This includes 1. Engaging with civil society groups, the churches, the business sector, trade unions, and other non-governmental actors in the design and rollout of the consultation process. 2. Hosting public forums for Jamaicans to debate and recommend constitutional changes. 3. Implementing school and community outreach programs. 4. Launching broad public education and awareness campaigns. Now, the legal and legislative reform constitutes of we will also prioritize legal changes that reflect our identity and deepen justice. And this will be done by recognizing the Jamaican language as an essential part of our national identity, protecting historical marginalized groups, particularly people of African descent, through a national ban on hair discrimination, a reparations advocacy framework, grounded in international law, legal protection of ancestral spaces and cultural practices, full recognition of Rastafari as an indigenous religion with associated rights, reaching an accord with Maroon communities to give modern recognition to their ancestral treaty rights, advancing gender equity, protection of the elderly, and the rights of persons with disabilities, implementing a progressive beach access policy by reviewing the Beach Control Act to guarantee public awareness while balancing tourism and private use, launching a ganja economic empowerment policy specifically for the Rastafarian community, and joining the International Criminal Court to reinforce Jamaica's commitment to global justice. Now, access to justice and services include expanding legal aid services to include civil and constitutional matters, ensuring that justice is not reserved for the wealthy. And finally, complete the review of the Domestic Violence Act and implement the recommendations to hold abusers accountable, including parish facilities to provide places of safety and support for victims, enact a basic financial services law to establish minimal service standards, and improve access to banking services across the country. The second pillar, which is access to quality education. And this reads, education is the bridge between struggle and opportunity, but too many of our children are being left behind. Rates of absenteeism are unacceptably high. Many finish primary school unable to read or do basic arithmetic. Rural schools often lack access to the internet, adequate infrastructure, and essential tools. A PNP government will stop patching the cracks in the system and rebuild it from the ground up. From early childhood education to tertiary education with urgency, inclusion, and vision. Jamaica stands on the edge of a new era, a digital revolution built on artificial intelligence, climate shocks, and global uncertainty. Too many of our people remain trapped in low-skilled, low-wage jobs with little hope for improvement. Jamaica, time come to act. The time for reports has passed. Real transformation will take bold ideas, national will, and all of us working together. We are ready. The primary objective of the PNP is to ensure equal access to quality education for all students, regardless of their socio-economic background. But access is not all. The PNP will pay attention to pedagogy. The reform of the education system requires a national effort. As a government, we will focus on the following. Number one, fix the foundation. This means every child is expected to be literate and numerate by the end of grade 6. We will reverse the literacy and numeracy crisis in early childhood and primary schools with significant investments made to achieve smaller classes, better trained teachers, and the provision of modern learning materials. We will tackle the serious problem of absenteeism that is a major contributor to academic underachievement. Secondly, pathways to opportunity. This is to strengthen post-secondary education, technical training, and apprenticeships tied to emerging sectors and local labor needs. Match private sector investments in training and upskilling with co-financing for on-the-job training and apprenticeships. Thirdly, safe, healthy environments. This is to enhance school infrastructure and campus health services, recognizing that learning thrives when children are well nourished, healthy, and secure. Fourth, inclusive growth. Invest in youth civic programs, the creative arts, and sports to nurture well-rounded citizens, reduce dropout rates, and enhance personal development. Next is to build new partnerships. And this is to invest in dialogue and partnerships with all major stakeholders in the education enterprise: educators, parents, community groups, religious institutions, students, investors, service providers, past students, researchers, and public bodies. Now, in order to have a reduction in absenteeism, they'll be implementing the RIDE program, which is the RIDE program, to subsidize student travel at $10,000 a month for 20,000 primary and secondary students, and it is based on the assessed need, and with the intention of increasing this as fiscal resources expand. They'll be setting up a proper school bus system, and they'll be providing one hot meal daily for all needy primary and secondary students under the EASE or the EASE program. The PNP will ensure that every child can read, write, do basic arithmetic, and reason by age 12. Every youth can access training, entrepreneurship, or tertiary education opportunities by the age of 18. Every adult has a pathway to upskilling and employment regardless of their location. Their approach to early childhood education is to reintroduce structured early childhood screening from age 3 to identify special needs early and expand programs to address those needs via a model that prioritizes inclusive school participation. They will expand access by partnering with churches and communities to host early stimulation and basic education programs. They'll be introducing the first 1,000 Days initiative focusing on brain development, parental guidance, and nutrition. They will create an early childhood teachers portal with lesson plans, developmental red flags, and classroom best practices. Primary education. This is to ensure that every child can read and do basic maths by the end of grade 4. They will provide literacy support through programs like Veranda Basics, Mommy and Me, and telephone tutorials. Secondary education. This will offer remedial support and academic camps for maths and English. Provide scholarships tied to volunteerism and community service. Develop night school programs for adult learners seeking to obtain CSEC passes. Build modern vocational labs in all high schools, leading to NVQJ certification levels 2 to 4. Host career fairs and certification expos in each parish. Facilitate heart NSTA training in key sectors like construction, agriculture, culinary arts, and AI applications. Tertiary and vocational access. This will ensure each household has at least one member with a tertiary degree level or level 4 heart NSTA certification. Expand the number of government-funded spaces in tertiary institutions and provide needs-based grants. Establish a special student loan amnesty program to allow students who are now in default to bring their loans current without incurring penalties and interest on arrears. Cap loan payments for borrowers from the Students' Loan Bureau at a manageable percentage of his or her income. During periods of unemployment, we will suspend loan payments and add them to the back end of the loan without penalties. Establish the First in Family program of full scholarships for the first person in a family to attend university or college. And establish public-private partnerships for internships, placement, and graduate employment opportunities. Continuing with education, we have curriculum. The 21st century curriculum embed Jamaican culture and identity, financial and digital literacy, critical thinking, AI learning, emotional intelligence, entrepreneurship, and sustainability in all curricula. Culture and creativity in the curriculum. Recognize Jamaican patois as a cultural language with English taught as a second language or ESL where needed to achieve mastery in English. Build 2 creative and performing arts high schools in Kingston and Montego Bay. Significantly expand music, visual arts, dance, drama, and storytelling in every primary school. Restore civics and embed the teachings of the Right Excellent Marcus Mosiah Garvey in the national curriculum. Support for teachers. Recognizing that central to the education process are teachers and the importance of retaining our teachers, the PNP government will pay special attention to them by ensuring teachers receive student debt reductions and motor vehicle concessions at levels that increase with their years of service in the profession. 2. Ensuring teachers benefit from enhanced access to NHT loans that are given priority in housing allocations in NHT finance schemes. 3. Negotiating package deals to provide teachers with free internet service as a tool of their trade. 4. Providing enhanced benefits for those who teach in underserved areas. 5, developing a system of national recognition for teachers that makes it possible for educators to do further studies or conduct research. 6, providing digital and technology training and tools. And 7, retraining and upskilling teachers, especially in literacy and numeracy, with new curricula and classroom support tools. Now they go on to institution building, and this is to modernize HART NSTA to focus on digital services, AI applications, animation, entrepreneurship skills, elder care, construction, renewable energy, and agro processing, and to build modern vocational labs in community colleges, leading to NVQJ certification from levels 2 to 4. They're going to look into community engagement, and this is to establish the constituency senate to meet biannually with school teachers, school leaders, parents, and community representatives. They're going to promote a culture of volunteerism in education among church groups, alumni networks, and civic clubs. Now, on to transportation. And in transportation, they're going to implement the Rural Initiative for Delivering Education, which is the RIDE program, subsidized school transport for primary and secondary students outside the JUTC zones. Partner with transport operators and schools to utilize a digital pass system for enhanced transparency and reliability. They're also going to look at health and nutrition, and this is by the introduction of the EASE program. And the EASE program is ensuring adequate sustenance for education. And this is to guarantee at least one nutritious lunch per day at primary and secondary schools for all students who need it. They're going to establish school-based mental health units across all regions with trained guidance officers. They're also going to provide resources to place an emphasis on the diagnosis of learning disabilities and strengthen shadow support and other measures to support the education of children with special needs and their families. And for technology, they're going to remove taxes on laptops and tablets for students and teachers. They're also going to ensure broadband internet connectivity in every community center and school campus. And the PNP's commitment statement is that the PNP is committed to building a Jamaican education system that is globally competitive, culturally grounded, and economically relevant, preparing every citizen not just to get a job, but to lead, create, and shape the future. Education is not a privilege, it is a human right, and one of our most potent tools for national transformation and development. The next pillar is modern infrastructure. And this is building the physical foundations of a new Jamaica. A modern economy requires a strong and reliable foundation of energy, transport, water, and communication systems. Jamaica's development depends on our ability to upgrade these essential services to meet the demands of our people. support economic growth, and build resilience to climate change. The PNP will lead this transformation with bold planning, targeted investment, and a commitment to equity and sustainability. No Jamaican should be left behind due to inadequate infrastructure. Energy, power for the people. Energy affects every sector of the economy. High energy costs in Jamaica reduce productivity, hinder development, and place a burden on citizens. A PNP government will work to lower energy costs, increase access, and promote clean and efficient energy use. Now, this will be the PNP approach. Prioritize public and private investment in clean, accessible power. Accelerate the transition to renewable energy with universal access, including community-owned and small-scale microgrid systems. Renegotiate the license with Jamaica Public Service Company to ensure the protection of the public interest in substantially lowering electricity costs to consumers and businesses, strengthening consumer protection, and accelerating the transition to renewable energy. Launching an electricity empowerment program to help low-income households regularize their consumption with support for solar system installations. Remove taxes and duties on clean energy equipment for households and MSMEs. Create green energy job programs, especially for youth, in solar installation, battery systems, and energy audits. Develop and enforce energy efficiency standards for public buildings, schools, and hospitals. There will be an update to the Electricity Act to allow special economic zones to generate and distribute electricity, to expand licensing or net billing and wheeling, and to strengthen consumer protection provisions. There will also be water and sustainable living, making every drop count. The water is life. It impacts health, food security, economic growth, and environmental stability. The PNP believes access to clean water is a right and not a privilege. Now, their approach is to ensure that every Jamaican household has access to clean water by 2030. Create a national map of water insecure communities and publish a public delivery plan with clear timelines and milestones. Invest in new pipelines, pumps, and storage tanks to reduce chronic water lockoffs. Prioritize climate resilient rural water systems, including rainwater harvesting and solar powered purification. Expand public access to potable water in drought prone areas using community based mini grids and bulk storage. Audit and upgrade leaking infrastructure to reduce the 40% of piped water lost before reaching households. Introduce tiered pricing and subsidies to protect the most vulnerable. Next is roads and transportation, and that's connecting people, products, and places. An efficient transport system is essential for access, equity, commerce, and mobility. Jamaica must end the isolation of rural and underserved communities with a connected, maintained, and modern road network. The People's National Party's approach is to rehabilitate and maintain roads, prioritizing interior roads, community roads, and farm roads. Expand and modernize farm to market roads to unlock agricultural production. Create a national road management system that includes climate risk mapping. Reintroduce the Lengthman system for drain cleaning and roadside maintenance using community contractors. Promote local contracting for infrastructure development to enhance community employment opportunities and promote local economic growth. Implement a national drainage program using an expert verified list of urgent areas. Establish a 10-year road maintenance plan with secured financing. Invest in safe public transport systems, including rural minibus services and integrated urban routes. They're going to reform the Transport Authority to focus on sector regulation, data gathering, and legislative guidance. There will be broadband and digital infrastructure bridging the digital divide. And in today's world, access to the internet is a basic necessity. Digital infrastructure must be extended to every community to unlock opportunities in education, business, and healthcare. Now, the People's National Party's approach is to establish a department for rural broadband access to drive the expansion of affordable and reliable broadband internet to underserved areas. Equip all community centers with free Wi-Fi to support education, telemedicine, and innovation. Partner with telecom providers to expand broadband access with incentives for reaching low-income and rural areas. Implement a universal service access plan to ensure all Jamaicans have access to digital tools and training. And finally, to launch digital literacy campaigns for youth, seniors, and small business owners. Now we're going to look at the next pillar, which is agriculture and food security. Agriculture must be at the center of Jamaica's journey toward economic independence, food security, and rural transformation. The People's National Party is committed to building a modern and resilient agricultural sector that feeds our people, empowers our farmers, and creates real opportunity in communities across the country. We will invest in innovation, expand access to land and water, support youth in getting into agriculture, and to ensure that Jamaican grown food takes priority on every table. This is not just about farming. It is about sovereignty, sustainability, and the future of our nation. Farmer support and access to the land. And this is the People's National Party's plan. Number one is to establish the Agricultural Development Fund to provide timely and transparent support for land preparation, farming inputs, irrigation, storage, and marketing. They will launch a new national irrigation plan to improve access to water for small farmers and key crops. They will provide secure and long-term leases on idle government lands to youth and community groups for productive farming. They will expand farmers' markets and rural aggregation centers with installations of cold storage to reduce post-harvest losses and strengthen food distribution. They will strengthen farmers' crop cooperatives and support the development of community-based processing centers across parishes. They will also reduce the national food import bill by 25% over the next 5 years, and they will modernize the fisheries sector to increase productivity, sustainability, and market competitiveness. Now we move on to youth in agriculture and training. And they will expand the HEART and the NSTA training in modern farming, agro-processing, and agribusiness for youth island-wide. They will partner with schools, youth clubs, and 4-H groups to support school gardens, entrepreneurship, challenges, and agri-youth hubs. They will also offer scholarships for students pursuing agricultural science and technology at the University of the West Indies, CASE, and vocational institutions. They will also establish a farm worker to farmer transition program to support returning workers with land, training, and a startups grant. Now we move on to climate resilience in farming. They will promote climate smart farming techniques, including greenhouse technology, drip irrigation, and composting. They will create a SMART program, which is the Sustainable Methods in Agriculture Resilience Training, to equip thousands of farmers with climate resilient skills. They will also provide affordable insurance and risk management tools to shield farmers from droughts, floods, and hurricanes. And they will partner with local universities to expand research into drought-resistant crops and sustainable methods of pest control. Now we're moving on to food sovereignty and nutrition society. The PNP will enforce a national school feeding policy that prioritizes locally grown food from Jamaican farmers and fisheries, support backyard gardens and urban farming through grants, starter kits, and public education campaigns. Launch a Grow What We Eat, Eat What We Grow campaign, which will be backed by a national curriculum in schools. They will strengthen border protection and food safety labs to prevent illegal imports and ensure consumer safety. And they will establish a transparent and fair system for allocating permits for food imports in times of shortage, prioritizing organizations that represent or support farmers. And finally, we'll be moving on to agricultural investment and innovation. And the PNP will achieve this by establishing agricultural economic zones focused on value-added products such as nutraceuticals, sauces, teas, and canned produce. Expand access to low-interest loans through credit unions and the microfinance providers for small and medium-scale farmers. And they will attract private investment in processing facilities, packaging plants, and marketing services to grow domestic and export markets, and to use geospatial mapping, mobile technology, and artificial intelligence to connect farmers to markets, weather alerts, and training resources. Now we move on to the next pillar, which is innovation and industry. For 63 years after political independence, Jamaica must build an economy that goes beyond extraction. Our bauxite reserves will eventually be depleted. Tourism alone is not enough, as it is vulnerable to natural disasters and external shocks. We must create a diverse and innovative economy rooted in the talents of our people, creative, adaptable, and resilient. The People's National Party will lead Jamaica into a new era of economic transformation by broadening ownership, strengthening traditional industries, and building the foundations of a future ready economy. The PNP's approach. Their approach is to accelerate GDP growth while maintaining fiscal targets, low inflation, and macroeconomic stability. They're going to reform the tax and incentive system to support economic transformation. They're going to strengthen small and medium businesses with training, financing, and infrastructure. And they're going to modernize agriculture to increase productivity, incomes, and food security. They will also be expanding logistics and industrial integration for trade and export growth. They're going to build stronger global partnerships to attract investment and promote climate resilience. They're also going to develop technology hubs, creative incubators, and research funding. They'll also promote green growth through renewable energy, ecotourism, and carbon reduction. They'll expand the creative economy with structured support and funding. They'll revitalize the Scientific Research Council to drive innovation in food and product development. And they will position Jamaica as a global trade and logistics hub, linking the Americas to the world. Now we look at repositioning for a new global economic reality. Jamaica must meet the demands of the new global economy with clear intent and bold action. The PNP's approach will drive a modern industrial policy focused on productivity and value-added industries. Digital infrastructure that promotes inclusion and innovation. They plan to have a platform to mobilize capital and strengthen entrepreneurship. They plan to have a state-enabled strategy for climate resilience and digital equity. A technologically sovereign and innovative nation. So the PNP believes technological sovereignty is essential to true independence. Jamaica must be able to innovate, govern, and grow using homegrown knowledge and global relevance. The PNP's approach. Their approach is to increase public investment in research and development across climate-smart agriculture, marine science, cannabis, drone technology, and digital manufacturing. 2. Establish tech innovation zones in Montego Bay, Kingston, Mandeville, and Port Antonio. 3. To create a National Artificial Intelligence and Ethics Commission. 4. To promote AI and data use in health, logistics, education, and farming with a focus on gender and youth. Launch a National Innovation Fund to support inventors, researchers, and entrepreneurs. They plan to reform secondary and tertiary education to promote technology, entrepreneurship, and critical thinking, and to protect local creatives in music, film, and education, and expand digital platforms to Jamaican content. The Jamaica 4.0, or Fourth Industrial Vision. The fourth industrial revolution is reshaping the world through automation, artificial intelligence, and digital technologies. Jamaica must embrace this change with strategic intent. The Jamaica 4.0 means a knowledge-based economy built on innovation and inclusion, global competitiveness and local ownership, resilient infrastructure and workforce development, stronger global trade linkages and supply chains. Next up, it's the industrial development and logistics integration. And the PNP's approach is to establish an implementation advisory committee to modernize the growth inducement strategy. They plan to create a national supply chain and logistics council. They plan to modernize the Global Logistics Hub initiative to boost Jamaica's role in regional and global trade. They plan to develop a strategic logistics infrastructure plan, including SEZ and spatial planning. They plan to build industry-specific clusters in high-tech, pharmaceuticals, media, sports, agro-industry, and logistics. They plan to generate 100,000 direct and 400,000 indirect good quality jobs. They plan to invest in smart logistics, modern ports, and transport networks. They plan to promote near-port industrial parks and digital trade platforms. They plan to implement the 2024 Customs Act with supporting regulations. They plan to improve trade facilitation by simplifying customs and reducing red tape. They plan to modernize the foreign trade policy to increase Jamaica's competitiveness. They plan to negotiate trade agreements with key partners including Africa, CARICOM, and the Americas. They plan to strengthen Jamaican businesses to meet international standards. The PNP also plans to promote digital trade and intellectual property protection. And they plan to encourage export diversification in products, markets, and services. Now let us look at the progressive industrial policy. The PNP will adopt a forward-thinking industrial policy that drives reindustrialization, technology, and sustainable development. Their approach is to integrate Industry 4.0 tools such as artificial intelligence, smart manufacturing, and clean production. Partner with universities and global institutions for research and innovation. Support small businesses with access to capital, training, and technology. encourage circular economy practices to support sustainable growth, promote local supply chains and regional value networks, launch the Jamaica Manufacturing Incentive Program. Now we move on to building a strong country brand and investment climate. And the PNP's approach is to launch a global investment campaign highlighting Jamaica as a destination for innovation and connectivity, attract investment in digital services, clean energy, advanced manufacturing, and logistics, expand support for public and private sector partnerships, build industrial capacity to deliver efficient and transparent investment services. Now we'll look at workforce development and institutional strengthening. And the PNP's approach is to partner with HART, IWED, University of the West Indies, University of Technology, and other institutions to train workers for future jobs. They will support women, youth, and MSMEs through inclusive policies and programs. They also plan to strengthen institutions and promote deep stakeholder engagement. They will create a Ministry of Trade, Industry, Investment, and Global Logistics under the Jamaica 4.0 strategy to drive implementation. Now we move on to transforming MSMEs and the informal economy. Many Jamaicans survive through small, self-managed businesses that operate outside of the formal economy. These include street vendors, mechanics, dressmakers, barbers, hairdressers, and corner shop owners. For too long, they have been excluded from mainstream opportunities. The People's National Party will transform this survival economy into a platform for sustainable livelihoods, empowering everyday Jamaicans to grow their businesses, access credit, and build generational wealth. Our mission is to build an economy that values and supports every micro business and every community entrepreneur. The PNP's approach is to establish an MSME collateral insurance facility to improve access to credit for small business owners who lack traditional collateral. They plan to digitize the informal economy by supporting mobile money, digital records, and access to government services. They plan to develop a business certification program to assist small enterprises in qualifying for financing, contracts, and incentives. They plan to offer training, mentorship, and markets access support to micro and small entrepreneurs. They plan to provide incentives for informal businesses to formalize and simplify the processes of formalization. They plan to create business districts as dedicated zones for small traders, artisans, and service providers in town centers. They plan to work with commercial banks, credit unions, and microfinance institutions to develop tailored loan products for the informal sector. They plan to promote e-commerce and digital entrepreneurship through training, marketing support, and logistics solutions. They plan to establish regional MSME hubs that provide shared equipment, co-working spaces, and product development labs. They plan to reform procurement policies to ensure small businesses can bid for public contracts. They plan to partner with community colleges and vocational centers to provide business literacy and technical training. And they plan to expand mobile business clinics and business registration drives in underserved communities. Now we move on to building a fairer, stronger, and more inclusive tourism sector. Tourism remains one of Jamaica's most significant sources of employment and foreign exchange. Over 170,000 Jamaicans work directly in the sector, yet Jamaicans do not enjoy the benefits of the industry as they should. The People's National Party will lead the transformation of tourism into a people-centered industry, one that empowers workers, respects communities, preserves the environment, and delivers long-term value to the Jamaican economy. Our vision is a tourism model that reflects equity, resilience, and cultural pride. The approach to this. They will have fair wages and dignified work for tourism workers. In order to achieve this, they will advocate for fair and living wages across the sector through updated minimum standards across the industry. They will remove tax from tips, gratuity, and commissions earned by tourism workers, subject to anti-abuse provisions. They will expand social protections such as pensions and health insurance for workers, and they will eliminate exploitative contract work arrangements in the tourism industry. Now moving on to reinventing tourism earnings into communities and infrastructure. They will allocate a portion of tourism tax revenue for local infrastructure and environmental renewal in key towns like Montego Bay, Negril, and Ocho Rios. They will build stronger links between hotels and host communities through mandatory local sourcing and partnerships. They will expand support for community tourism, including craft vendors, local entertainers, food producers, and artisans. Now moving on to the cultural preservation and heritage integration. 1, they will make cultural heritage a central part of the tourism product. 2, they will support creative industries, youth culture, and traditional knowledge as economic assets. And 3, they will fund projects that preserve Jamaica's heritage sites and promote storytelling, festivals, and art. Now we move on to market diversification and resilience. And this is all under innovation and industry. Firstly, broaden Jamaica's tourism offerings to include health, wellness, sports, and diaspora tourism. Secondly, to strengthen airline partnerships and destination marketing strategies. And thirdly, to promote inclusive tourism zones that cater to multiple income levels and local ownership. Now we will look at the next pillar of care for the vulnerable and health services. I think I'm skipping too far ahead. Well, we have climate resilience and sustainable tourism, so it's still a continuation of innovation and industry. So implement mandatory environmental impact assessments for significant tourism developments. Next, improve incentives for eco-friendly hotels and green certification. 3, set national carbon reduction standards for cruise lines and hotel chains. And 4, to protect coastal ecosystems and natural resources as part of sustainable tourism planning. Land access for and housing for tourism workers. We're going to expand land titling and housing opportunities in tourism centers for industry workers. We're going to provide affordable housing development for frontline staff in high tourism zones. Ensure workers live with dignity close to where they work and thrive. Strengthening local ownership and SME participation. They're going to increase the share of Jamaican ownership across all parts of the tourism value chain. They're going to improve financing and business development support for transport operators, hospitality providers, attractions, and digital platforms. We're going to simplify licensing and reduce bureaucracy to encourage small business participation. They're going to enact policies and ensure Jamaican entrepreneurs can scale up and compete. Now we'll look at the culture and creative economy. Now, Jamaica's cultural identity is one of our greatest global assets. From reggae to fashion, theater to dance, storytelling to design, our creative industries embody the spirit, voice, and vision of the Jamaican people. The global creative economy is valued at over $3 trillion US. It is time for Jamaica to claim a larger share. The People's National Party believes the creative sector must be treated as a serious driver of economic growth, job creation, and innovation. We plan to empower creators, protect their work, and build the infrastructure to take Jamaican culture to the world. Our approach: creative industry investment and infrastructure. One is to establish a $1 billion creative economy fund to support business developments, content creation, training, and community-based arts. 2, establish a creative industry park and music heritage museum in Trenchtown to honor icons and nurture talent. 3, to expand access to funding for micro, small, and medium creative enterprises across all regions. And 4, to improve small content development studios and community venues across Jamaica. Now we look at youth employment and capacity building. Number 1 is to create internship and mentorship opportunities in creative sectors. 2 is to provide training for freelancers in business management, production, and copyright law. 3 is to retool the Creative Production and Training Center and the Media Technology Institute to deliver cutting-edge training in film, animation, music, and audiovisual production. And 4 is to expand the cultural curriculum from early childhood to adult education, including through libraries and the Institute of Jamaica's Junior Center programs. Now moving on to business development and regulation. They plan to establish business development services through Jamaica Creative to support investment readiness, training, marketing, and institutional support. They plan to implement a national business certification program for creatives to access financing and public procurement. They plan to revise the tools of trade exemption policy to serve creatives better. They plan to establish special entertainment zones for events of all sizes with proper community consultation. They plan to streamline the process of getting entertainment license through a single national regulatory system. Now moving on to policy reform and institutional strengthening. They plan to reinstate and empower the National Cultural and Creative Industries Commission to oversee policy and strategy. They plan to conduct an audit of government agencies with overlapping creative mandates to remove duplication and improve efficiency. They plan to revisit procurement standards to ensure transparency and fairness in government-funded creative projects such as the Grand Gala. They plan to encourage the formation of professional associations, guilds, and cooperatives across the creative subsectors. They plan to repatriate important Jamaican artifacts held abroad and modernize the National Gallery and museums. They plan to reinstate the Cultural Passport program to help students and young people engage with museums, galleries, and heritage sites. Now moving on to community and tourism integration. First, to collaborate with the Ministry of Tourism to reinstate and promote community festivals. 2, to ensure cultural industries are central to Jamaica's tourism identity and export development. And 3, to leverage our national brand to position Jamaican culture as a premium offering in the global creative economy. Now we move on to national recognition. Confer the national honor of National Hero on the Honorable Robert Nesta Marley and the Honorable Louise Bennett Coverley in recognition of their enduring cultural legacies and contributions to nation building. Jamaica is a global sporting powerhouse. From the Olympic track to the football field, our athletes inspire national pride and international respect. But sports is more than competition. It is a tool for youth development, community building, and economic opportunity. The People's National Party is committed to transforming sports into a fully resourced, fully respected pillar of national development. We will invest in athletes, build world-class facilities, and create the legal and institutional framework to take sports in Jamaica to the next level. Now let us look at how the People's National Party plan to achieve all this. Their approach. Number one, institutional reform and policy alignment. So they plan to establish a standalone Ministry of Sports to provide focused leadership and fundraising, ensuring a dedicated approach to sports development. Develop a national sports strategic plan in partnership with clubs and sporting associations. Provide tax exemptions on sports equipment and streamline the approval process for sports projects. Establish the National Sports Council in law to lead national policy, standards, and oversight. Rationalize and align the various public bodies involved in sports, including the Institute of Sports, SDC, ISA, JADCO, SDF, and Independent Spark Limited. Review and modernize the national sport policy to reflect current realities and future ambitions. Next is infrastructure development and urban renewal. They plan to build modern sports complexes as proposed in the National Sports Strategic Plan. They plan to upgrade community fields and high school infrastructure across parishes. They plan to support grassroots and youth sports as a pathway for national and international competition. They plan to encourage private sector investment in sports through public-private partnerships. Next, we have the legal framework and governance. They plan to establish a national sports tribunal to hear and resolve disputes between associations, to set government standards and manage governance issues, and set codes of conduct. They plan to promote safe sports policies and systems to protect athletes and preserves the integrity of the sport. They plan to encourage the formation of an association of national sports governing bodies to represent development needs and align national programs. Now to the international engagement and investment. They plan to strengthen bilateral and multilateral sports cooperation agreements for knowledge exchange and investment. They plan to promote Jamaica as a destination for sports, tourism, training camps, and international competitions. They plan to partner with diaspora networks and global sporting bodies to boost funding, technical support, and access. Next to capacity building and excellence. They plan to launch a national program of sporting excellence to identify and nurture talent from early childhood through elite levels. They plan to provide targeted scholarships, coaching certifications, and academic support for student athletes. They plan to encourage the integration of sports science and sports medicine across clubs and national programs. They plan to expand opportunities for carers in sports management, officiating, and administration. Modern Jamaica, we'll look at labor now. Modern Jamaica was born out of the struggles of working people from the uprisings of 1938 to the formation of trade unions and cooperatives. Workers have built the foundation of our democracy and our economy. Yet too many Jamaicans still work in poor conditions without dignity, protection, or opportunity. The People's National Party believes that every Jamaican deserves fairness at work, a voice in the economy, and a pathway to prosperity. We will restore the power of labor, protect workers' rights, and build a just and inclusive society. The PNP's approach. Number one is to modernize labor laws and workplace protections. In order to achieve this, they will end the widespread abuse of contract work arrangements by enacting legislation to secure decent working conditions for all. Review, and modernize Jamaica's labor laws to reflect today's realities and protect workers across all sectors. They plan to pass the Occupational Health and Safety Act to ensure safe, healthy, and respectful working environments. And they plan to launch the Livable Wage Commission to review income standards and recommend a fair national minimum wage. 2, we move to the worker representation and sector councils. 1 is to establish joint industrial councils for major sectors, including tourism, security, and outsourcing, to address industry-wide concerns. 2 is to support tripartite dialogue among workers, employers, and the government to solve labor disputes. And 3, to promote strong democratic trade unions as a central pillar of workplace justice and national development. 3 is the economic security and pension reform. We're going to remove tax from overtime payments for workers whose total earnings do not exceed $6 million per year, subject to anti-abuse provisions. They plan to increase the existing tax exemptions on pension income. They plan to expand the employee share ownership program to promote economic democracy and worker ownership. And 4, they plan to increase the employment tax credit cap to 40% to incentivize businesses to hire more people and invest in training. 4 is the international standards and global engagement. Number 1 is to ratify all outstanding International Labour Organization conventions to bring Jamaica in line with global labor standards. 2 is to strengthen labor inspection, compliance, and enforcement systems to uphold workplace rights. And 3 is to promote ethical employment practices and gender equity across the public and private sectors. And 5 is a new social contract for the future of work. So this is to support policies for remote work, flexible schedules, and platform-based employment. Protect informal workers by providing them with access to benefits, training, and pathways to formalization, and to promote lifelong learnings and upskilling to prepare Jamaican workers for the demands of the future economy. Now we'll move on to the next pillar, which is care, dignity, and health for all. Health and wellness for all. The People's National Party believes that access to quality health care is a fundamental human right. We are committed to building a system that delivers care with dignity, invests in our health workers, and meets the needs of all Jamaicans, rural and urban, rich and poor, young and old. A future PNP government will make the health of our people a national priority. We will modernize the health system to make it responsive to the needs of the people, improve mental health services, empower frontline staff, and invest in technology and innovation to ensure every citizen receives the care they need. Now let us look at the PNP's approach. So number 1 is healthcare with dignity. They plan to launch a national maternal and a child health program to reduce mortality cases. They plan to establish a high-risk antenatal clinics in all health districts. They plan to expand the neonatal intensive care unit at Victoria Jubilee Hospital and create one at Bustamante Children's Hospital. They plan to reform emergency services with an Adopt an Ambulance program supported by the private sector and civic groups. They plan to train more paramedics and create a national trauma response system. They plan to create centers of excellence for day surgeries to reduce waiting times and backlogs. They plan to establish 24-hour urgent care centers to ease pressure on hospital emergency rooms. They plan to invest in AI-driven health systems to improve diagnosis and telemedicine. They plan to ensure every parish hospital has radiology and CT scan capacity. They plan to expand the radiology department at Bustamante Children's Hospital. They plan to strengthen mental health services by training more professionals, creating mobile emergency teams, and establishing halfway houses. They plan to build at least one mobile emergency response team per parish. They plan to increase the number of blood collection centers. They plan to create an independent and transparent system to manage patient complaints. They plan to institutionalize research and development in health to strengthen local solutions and global impact. Now we're moving on to support for health workers. They plan to continuously review staffing to align with demand. They plan to provide better housing support for healthcare personnel through the National Housing Trust. They plan to offer graduated concessionary duty rates on motor vehicles and student loan forgiveness based on years of service in the public health system. They plan to increase benefits and offer student loan forgiveness for those working in underserved areas and provide scholarship opportunities for further learning. Now we move on to health financing and expenditure. They plan to expand services funded by the National Health Fund, including free surgical implants and screenings for persons 60 years and older. They plan to strengthen project management to ensure efficient use of public health services. They plan to reform procurement to eliminate waste and ensure health dollars improve patient care. They plan to standardize procurement systems across the health sector for better efficiency. They plan to recognize the immense value of philanthropic diaspora support to the health system by streamlining processes to reduce cost and bureaucratic hurdles. And they plan for institutional reform and community care. And in order to achieve this, they will review the structure, mandate, and operations of the regional health authorities and reform them to the extent that they are not delivering more efficient and effective health care. They plan to use digital technology for records management and to reduce administrative burdens on care workers. They plan to create community health committees for greater local oversight and accountability. They plan to transform health centers into community-based care coordination hubs. So, the strategic pillars: a social protection, a caring, inclusive, and family-centered Jamaica. The People's National Party believes that no one should be left behind, whether by age, ability, gender, or geography. Every Jamaican deserves a chance to thrive. True social protection is not just about handouts. It is about dignity, opportunity, and equity. Our vision is a Jamaica where families are strong, communities are supported, and everyone has a fair shot at a better life. Through coordinated policies and people-centered investment, we will build a caring state that uplifts every citizen. So, let us look at the strategic pillars. So, number one, social protection. This is to go beyond welfare and build a caring system rooted in universal access. Eliminate systemic exclusion by guaranteeing services and opportunities to all. Two is social mobility. Create pathways out of generational poverty through education, training, and entrepreneurship. Promote a family centered development model that nurtures potential and economic independence. Three is social cohesion, which is to restore core values and justice within communities. Strengthen community level engagement through restorative justice and family court reform. And four, social inclusion, which is to actively integrate persons with disabilities, the elderly, at risk youth, and women. Promote gender equity and equal access to all aspects of national life. So, we'll be looking at strengthening families and the People's National Party's commitments. Their commitment is to invest $2 billion in year one, then $3 billion annually to create a coordinated, family-centered social work system. They plan to hire and consolidate a national cadre of social workers across ministries and to support families across 3 generations with integrated interventions. So the flagship actions are to expand the path to include stronger disability and mental health screening, prioritize persons with disabilities in access to PATH benefits, and include family caregivers for persons with disabilities in the PATH support system. Establish safe support centers in every parish for survivors of domestic and gender-based violence. Reform the family court to promote co-parenting and restorative justice. Introduce parenting support programs in schools and communities. Create after-school programs with life skills, mentorship, and care. Reform the Child Protection and Family Services Agency to ensure proper care for children in state custody. Provide job training, entrepreneurship support, and gang prevention through the Peace Management Initiative. And expand restorative justice and community conflict resolution councils as part of a holistic national crime prevention program. Care for and dignity for seniors. The 5-year, $5 billion investment plan for our seniors. The People's National Party will invest $5 billion over 5 years to support 100,000 seniors across Jamaica with a national framework of care, inclusion, and protection. This plan recognizes the value of our elders and ensures that they age with dignity, safety, and connection. The community-based supports services. We will expand and strengthen localized programs to support daily needs and well-being for our seniors. Services will include nutritious meal preparation, assistance with personal care and hygiene, regular wellness checks by trained personnel, accessible and reliable transportation services. These services will be community-based, people-powered, and delivered through strong partnerships with churches and other local organizations. The Faith-Based Community Transformation Fund. The PNP recognizes the deep-rooted influence of churches and other faith-based organizations in Jamaica communities and their proven ability to drive social upliftment. We will establish a faith-based community transformation fund, or the FBCTF, of $1 billion replenished annually to empower local churches and other faith-based organizations across Jamaica to expand their community-driven programs that strengthen families, support education, foster economic resilience, and promote social cohesion in a structured, accountable, and impactful manner. Contributions to the FBCTF by private sector firms and individuals will be incentivized by tax-deductible status. The FBCTF will be administered by the Jamaica Social Investment Fund, which is the JSIF, or another appropriate public body to ensure transparency, efficiency, and proper monitoring and evaluation of these resources, and its annual report, including audited financial statements, will be tabled in Parliament. A dedicated board of directors comprising pastors, other community leaders, and appropriately skilled professionals will oversee the FBCTF's governance, ensuring that it remains aligned with the needs of the communities and the objectives of national development. We will also establish a unit within the ministry with responsibility for social transformation to support the social initiatives run by faith-based and community organizations. Now let us look at the National Caregiver Program. A trained caregiver network will be developed to support families and communities. Train and compensate community caregivers, including family members who provide full-time support to elderly relatives. Partner with churches, taxi associations, and community groups to help identify needs and expand outreach and service delivery. Pass an Elder Care and Protection Act to prevent abuse and safeguard the dignity of older Jamaicans. Now, the digital inclusion for seniors. They're going to close the digital divide and connect our seniors to the modern world. We will implement a targeted $750 million program to benefit 25,000 seniors. We're going to provide digital services or subsidies to eligible seniors. They plan to establish 150 digital help desks island-wide. They plan to train youth volunteers to teach digital coaching to 50,000 seniors. They plan to launch a national anti-scam and fraud prevention campaign tailored to older Jamaicans, with a focus on online safety and financial protection. Now, the inclusion of persons with disabilities. The greatness of a society is measured by how it treats those who are often overlooked. Now, too many Jamaicans with disabilities continue to face barriers that prevent them from living full and independent lives. The People's National Party is committed to building a society that values, respects, and includes every person. We will break down the physical, institutional, and cultural obstacles that keep people with disabilities on the margins and create a system where they can thrive. Our commitments are to create a national disability fund funded with $1 billion and replenished annually to 1. Strengthen the funding for the functions of the Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities and support non-profit organizations that work with persons with disability. Fund technology-based solutions for independent living and mobility. And thirdly, to ensure all public buildings, schools, and facilities are accessible to persons with disabilities. We will convene a national consultation in year one to design a national disability integration plan with direct input from affected communities and launch a national campaign to challenge stigma and promote full inclusion in public life. We will guarantee equal participation in democracy by improving access to voting, education, and employment for persons with disabilities. And we will review and strengthen legislation and enforcement to protect the rights of persons with disabilities in all sectors. Now we will be looking at protecting women and girls from gender-based violence. 1 in 4 Jamaican women between the ages of 15 and 64 will experience intimate partner violence in their lifetime. Despite stronger laws and greater awareness, gender-based violence remains a national emergency. The People's National Party believes this crisis requires urgent action, bold innovation, and unwavering political will. We will move beyond the press releases and promises to implement real life-saving solutions that protect our women, uplift survivors, and prevent future harm. Now let us look at the People's National Party's approach to protecting women and girls from gender-based violence. Technology and rapid response. They plan to launch a national mobile app to report gender-based violence in real time. They plan to integrate the app with emergency services and local shelters. They plan to use geolocation technology to pinpoint incident locations, drawing on Wi-Fi, cell tower, and device data. And they plan to ensure strong privacy protections to safeguard the identity and safety of victims. Public education and prevention. They plan to launch a national campaign on rights, protections, and available services. They plan to embed respect, equality, and gender education into the school curriculum from early childhood to high school. They plan to train students, teachers, and parents to identify warning signs and respond appropriately. They plan to promote respectful relationships and challenge harmful gender norms. Data and targeted intervention. The PNP plans to utilize predictive analytics to pinpoint high-risk areas and map hotspots based on factors such as lighting, police presence, and established patterns. They plan to direct interventions and police patrols in communities with elevated risk. They plan to partner with community organizations, churches, and schools to strengthen frontline support. Data and targeted intervention continued is to partner with churches and community organizations to provide temporary shelters for survivors, especially in rural areas. They plan to expand the number and quality of state-funded shelters and safe spaces. They plan to ensure availability of counseling, relocation services, and legal support. Now, legal reform and accountability. They plan to conduct a full review of gender-related laws to ensure enforcement and impact. They plan to strengthen the prosecution of domestic violence, stalking, cyber harassment, and digital abuse. They plan to address new threats through legislation such as smartphone tracking, online stalking, and non-consensual sharing of private content. And they intend to train police and judiciary to respond with care, sensitivity, and urgency. Now we will look at the next pillar in the PNP's mission. And this is accountability in governance. Jamaica's democratic journey began with the fight for the right to vote and self-government. Today, we must go further. Democracy is not only about casting a vote. It is about giving citizens an authentic voice in the decisions that affect their lives. The People's National Party is committed to participatory democracy where government is transparent, inclusive, and accountable. We will modernize our public institutions, return power to communities, and rebuild trust in government by creating a system that delivers for the people. How to go about this? First point is democracy and service delivery. They plan to amend the Access to Information Act to align with global best practices. They plan to make public consultations accessible, inclusive, and meaningful. They plan to accelerate the public sector modernization program to deliver faster and fairer services. They plan to strengthen the rule of law by improving court efficiency, expanding legal aid, and training prosecutors. They plan to reform local government planning to include participatory decision-making at the municipal level. Digital government from paper to people. They plan to create a national digital platform to unify services, including health records, land titles, and business registration. They plan to make all core public service available. They plan to make all core public services available online with mobile access and real-time tracking. They plan to provide free Wi-Fi in government offices and community centers across the country. They plan to introduce digital identification cards with biometric security for seamless access to services. They plan to strengthen the public sector transformation unit to lead innovation and reform across ministries. Now we look at local government reform, power to the parishes. They plan to build on the constitutional amendment passed in 2015 to guarantee local democracy. They plan to review the Local Governance Act and Local Government Financing and Financial Management Act and Local Government, which is a Unified Service and Employment Act, with a view to making any necessary adjustments followed by full enforcement of their provisions. They plan to empower parish development committees and community development committees to co-create local plans. They plan to shift focus from consistent constituency politics to community development by expanding the powers of municipal corporations. They plan to establish a National People's Assembly, including diaspora representatives, to review laws and shape policy impacting local communities. They plan to introduce participatory budgeting and local planning where citizens help decide spending priorities. They plan to create longer accountability measures for local government, linking funding to measurable performance. Now let's look at transparency, oversight, and anti-corruption. They plan to restore the office of the political ombudsman as an independent watchdog separate from the Electoral Commission of Jamaica, or the EOJ. They plan to ensure the independence and effectiveness of the Integrity Commission to enable it to pursue its statutory mandate without fear or favor, including desirable improvements such as the modification of the gag clause to achieve a workplace balance between protecting legitimate reputational rights and ensuring timely disclosure in the public interest. They plan to strengthen the oversight committees in Parliament, including by enacting mechanisms to facilitate the participation of civil society and other non-state actors in the work of these committees. They plan to modernize the Access to Information Act to implement simpler processes, shorter timelines, and a broader scope to facilitate the flow of information to the public. They plan to modernize the legal framework for obtaining permits and licenses to ensure efficiency, fairness, and transparency. They plan to increase the monetary jurisdiction of parish courts so more Jamaicans can access justice that is affordable and closer to home. And they plan to hold public dialogue on the National Sex Offender Registry to ensure balance between public safety and rehabilitation. Now we move on to foreign policy and regional affairs. They plan to restore Jamaica's active participation in CARICOM and regional partnerships to materialize the economic and social benefits of regional integration and to achieve maximum effectiveness in international relations on matters of mutual interest. They plan to uphold the principles of cooperation, human rights, self-determination, and global equity in international relations. They plan to engage diaspora in constitutional reform and encourage their participation in public boards. They plan to modernize embassies and consulates to meet the evolving needs of citizens and diplomatic relations. They plan to evaluate Jamaica's progress toward the Sustainable Development Goals and strengthen national coordination. They plan to push for United Nations reform in areas that directly affect countries like Jamaica. And they plan to expand trade, economic ties with continental Africa and the global South. Now, let us look at information and public communication. And this will be a part of the accountability in government's pillar. Let's look at restoring integrity and access to public information. They will prohibit the use of public funds for advertising during election periods other than where the promotion of critical public services is essential in the public interest. They will establish an independent public sector advertising oversight panel to vet all publicly funded advertising during election periods. They will require transparency through annual disclosure of all public sector advertising budgets and expenditure on advertising campaigns. Let's look at protecting state communication assets. They will ensure that public servants, not political party connected operatives, manage all ministry websites, digital accounts, and archives. They will mandate long-term archiving of all government communications to preserve transparency and institutional memory. Digital communication and accountability. They plan to implement a national digital communications policy to enforce non-partisan, service-oriented use of government platforms. They plan to create a government communications council to coordinate public information across ministries. They plan to develop shared infrastructure, including a central content management system and a unified national portal. They plan to deploy trained digital public information officers within all ministries. They plan to digitize the Access to Information ATI system for easy online requests and tracking. They plan to review and remove non-disclosure clauses in government contracts that are not demonstratively justified in a free and democratic society. They plan to empower the ATI Appeal Tribunal to act swiftly and independently. Let us look at completing the digital transition. They plan to finalize a digital broadcasting switchover with fair access and public transparency. They plan to catalog and protect all state-owned communication assets and archives. And they plan to invest in mobile-first platforms to reach underserved and rural populations. Now, let us look at the next pillar of the PNP's mission in their 2025 elections manifesto, which is land, housing, and ownership. Restoring dignity through land and shelter. Every Jamaican deserves a safe and secure place to call home. Yet today, nearly 1 in 5 Jamaicans live in informal settlements and hundreds of thousands remain locked out of land and home ownership. The housing deficit now stands at 190,000 units. Inequitable land distribution and unaffordable housing continue to fuel poverty, hopelessness, and crime. The People's National Party is committed to restoring dignity by securing land rights, building affordable homes, and transforming communities. We will build not just houses, but the foundation for a fairer society. their approach. Number one, fixing the NHT and making housing truly affordable. They will end the annual extraction of $11.4 billion from the National Housing Trust, the NHT, so as to enable the NHT to comprehensively carry out its mandate. They will restore the NHT to its original purpose of financing and building affordable housing for contributors. They plan to undertake an aggressive program to build 50,000 affordable homes on public lands across Jamaica not suitable for agriculture over the next 5 years, and exclude the value of land from the price of those homes to make ownership more accessible. They plan to establish the NHT Rent to Own program to help self-employed and informally employed persons who cannot produce a payslip to prove their income so as to qualify for a mortgage to go into possession of the house as a tenant and access mortgages after 6 months of honoring their rental payments so as to become owners. This program will also allow tenants to allocate a portion of the rent towards the deposit of the house so that over time they can pay down on the house, access a mortgage, and move from tenancy to ownership of the house. They plan to establish a $1 billion Young Owners Deposit Fund, which is replenished annually within the NHT to enable persons up to 45 years of age to access non-refundable grants of $500,000 to cover the deposit on the purchase of their first home once they have contributed for at least 2 years to the NHT. They plan to restore reduced interest rates for public sector workers such as teachers, nurses, and police, correctional and military officers. They plan to provide an interest rate reduction for persons with disabilities. They plan to grant public sector workers a 3-month grace period before mortgage payments begin after purchasing their home. They plan to enable them to furnish it. They plan to apply a preferred 40% debt service ratio to support public sector workers in qualifying for larger NHT homes. And just a clarification above, they plan to grant public sector workers a 3-month grace period before mortgage payments begin after purchasing their home, and this is to enable them to furnish the houses. Now let us look at community renewal and urban upgrading. We will launch the program for orderly renewal and the transformation of infrastructure in all areas, otherwise known as PORTIA, PORTIA, which will complete all unfinished Operation Pride schemes across Jamaica, ensuring the infrastructure is in place and titles are issued to the residents. They will embark on the regularization of informal land settlements across Jamaica through organizing the residents, financing the infrastructure and lot sales, issuing titles, etc., supported by a robust governance mechanism to ensure transparency and value for money. They will upgrade older housing schemes that are in need of repair and invest in communities to provide proper sidewalks, green spaces, and effective drainage systems. They plan to replace zinc fence with concrete walls and invest in public beautification. We will allocate 20% of all new social housing built by the Housing Agency of Jamaica to persons with disabilities, utilizing inclusive design principles, and provide housing assistance to those in need through targeted grants and subsidies. We will partner with churches that own large plots of land to build integrated retirement homes for seniors with shared revenue models between the churches and the NHT. And now we will look at the land ownership. And the next PNP government will deliver the most significant transfer of wealth to the people in Jamaican history, putting ownership of government lands in the hands of the people. We will amend the Limitations of Actions Act to reduce the years required for adverse possession of Crown lands from 60 years to 25 years, so that families that have invested in building homes on these lands and have well established possession will become the title's owners of the land. Where possession is well established and persons have been living in homes without yet achieving the threshold of 25 years, we will facilitate their purchase and the titling of the land at affordable prices and on concessionary payment terms. Protecting citizens' data and privacy. One is to ensure compliance with the Data Protection Act across the public sector, while ensuring that the Act cannot be manipulated to prevent the release of information, the disclosure of which is in the interests of open and transparent governance and the fight against corruption. They will prohibit the political use of state-collected personal data for targeting or surveillance. And they plan to publish clear policies on how the government handles and stores citizen data. Now we'll look at building an information resilient democracy. Number one, they will establish a national information integrity unity to counter disinformation and protect public trust. They will promote media and digital literacy across schools and communities. They will develop a national crisis communication protocol for fast and coordinated messaging. They will facilitate a two-way communication through digital town halls, citizen surveys, and public feedback tools. And finally, in land, housing, and ownership, we look at the National Information Repository. And here they will create a publicly accessible digital archive of government records, parliamentary debates, and national reports. They require all public bodies to contribute systematically to this archive. They will integrate the Jamaica Archives and Records Department with the Jamaica Information Service for efficiency. And they will develop a searchable online portal to assist Jamaicans to access our history and civic records. Now, we will look at opportunities for youth. Unlocking the potential of Jamaica's youth. Jamaica's future depends on its youth. Yet too many young people face limited access to quality education, decent jobs, affordable housing, and creative opportunities. The People's National Party is committed to changing that. We will create a system that supports young people at every stage, from learning and training to employment and entrepreneurship, and from self expression to leadership. We will build a Jamaica where youth are not just seen but empowered. Let us look at their approach. Number one, education and training for the future. They will reform the curriculum in public schools to include artificial intelligence, climate science, creative thinking, and entrepreneurship. Expand heart training centers across all 14 parishes to deliver certified skills in construction, agriculture, entrepreneurship, logistics, and technology. Provide scholarships annually to young people studying at the University of the West Indies, University of Technology, and vocational institutions in high demand sectors. They plan to launch a national digital literacy program to train 25,000 youths by 2029. Jobs, entrepreneurship, and digital access. They plan to launch a national youth innovation fund with $1 billion replenished annually to support youth led tech and creative startups and projects across tech, music, media, and performance. They plan to fund 5,000 youth owned businesses over 5 years through startup grants and low interest loans. They plan to establish 14 regional youth employment hubs, providing mentorship, job placement, and training. They plan to partner with the private sector to create 20,000 new jobs for young people in tourism, logistics, agriculture, and the digital economy. Creative expression, culture, and sports. They plan to build creative industry hubs and content studios in urban and rural communities. They plan to upgrade 200 school and community fields, courts, and sports centers over 4 years. They plan to expand participation in national youth festivals, theater programs, and dance training with an annual reach of 20,000 young people. They plan to launch a national sports and culture apprenticeship program to train young coaches, artists, and managers. Care, mental health, and protection. They plan to expand the number of school based guidance counselors and mental health professionals. They plan to establish after school safe spaces in every constituency for vulnerable youth. They plan to distribute digital safety kits for young women and girls, including education on online protection and access to emergency support. They plan to expand peace management initiatives services to 20 high risk communities with a focus on youth conflict resolution. They plan to fund second chance placements annually for youth in rehabilitation, skills training, and reintegration. And for their commitment, the Jamaica People's National Party believes that youth are not just Jamaica's future, they are Jamaica now. We will open the doors of opportunity wide, invest in talent and resilience, and ensure every young person has a real chance to thrive. No youth must be left behind. Now, we move on to violence prevention and the safer communities. Citizen safety and security safer, stronger, healthier communities. The People's National Party believes that the future of Jamaica rests on the safety and vitality of our communities. We envision a country where citizens live without fear, feel connected, and take pride in the places they call home. Our approach treats violence not only as a security issue, but as a public health challenge to a social justice concern. We will reduce violence by investing in prevention, addressing root causes, and strengthening trust between citizens and law enforcement. From 2016 to the present, Jamaica has lost almost 13,000 lives to violent crime, with the annual murder rate averaging 25% higher than under the previous People's National Party administration for the first 8 years. More Jamaicans have been murdered in the 2 terms of this JLP administration than in any other 2 terms in the history of Jamaica. That failure must be acknowledged. The significant reduction in murders this year marks a welcome shift after many years of misguided policies and reflects the effectiveness of evidence-based focused policing versus the unconstitutional and ineffective states of emergency promoted by the Holness administration. The elimination of the routine state of emergency use, combined with targeted enforcement and community programs, validates the PNP's long-held position. Now Jamaica can chart a new course, one based on justice, data, and hope. Now their approach. Violence as a public health issue. The PNP will treat violence as a public health issue shaped by poverty, trauma, and exclusion. They will identify risk factors and apply early intervention strategies. They will invest in prevention programs and trauma recoveries services. They will support victims and communities through counseling and social support. They will pair enforcement with programs that break cycles of retaliation and crime. Policing for community trust. We will transform policing into a model that prioritizes protection and service rather than occupation. They will expand intelligence-led and problem-oriented policing focused on hotspots and high-risk individuals. They will improve training in human rights, de-escalation, and trauma-informed care. They will promote mental health services and career development for law enforcement officers. They will build stronger relationships between police and the communities they serve. Now, social investment and violence prevention. Crime cannot be addressed by force alone. It must be prevented through opportunity. They will expand school and community-based programs like the Peace Management Initiative. They will provide mentorship, therapy, and conflict mediation in high-risk communities. They will launch targeted job training and entrepreneurship programs for youth at risk. They will partner with the private sector to create employment pathways. They will invest in early childhood development and family strengthening initiatives. They will expand vocational training, apprenticeships, and financial literacy. They will support second chance programs for young offenders and returning citizens. Now, technology and intelligence. The PNP will modernize the tools used to prevent and fight crime. They will use data and social indicators to allocate resources effectively. They will expand the cybercrime and financial crime units to track and dismantle scamming networks. They will extend and maintain the Jamaica Eye surveillance system in priority areas. They will develop geographic targeting tools to address violence in real time. Now, on to balanced enforcement and legal reform. We will uphold the rule of law while respecting human rights. They will legislate for court supervised, time limited, pre charge detention for violent suspects backed by credible intelligence. They will focus enforcement on the small number of individuals and locations that drive most of the violent crime in Jamaica. They will use social services and prevention programs to address systematic causes. Now let us look at improving welfare and protection for law enforcement. They will allow police officers to retire at 65 rather than 60 if they choose, without losing pension benefits. They will adjust pension formulas to ensure those who retire at 60 are not disadvantaged. They will guarantee priority firearm licensing for police, soldiers, and correctional officers once certified by their department. They will eliminate the distinction between killed on duty and killed in service. They will increase death benefits for families of fallen officers from $14 million to $25 million. Their commitment. The People's National Party is committed to building safer communities through a balanced approach that combines enforcement, prevention, and social development. Safe communities require more than policing. They also require trust and opportunity. Now we are at the final pillar of the PNP's Manifesto, Mission Jamaica Love. And this is environmental resilience. Environmental protection and sustainability. The People's National Party believes that actual development must be environmentally sustainable. As a small island developing state, Jamaica faces serious risks from climate change and environmental degradation. Our very survival depends on how we protect our natural resources, prepare for disasters, and build long-term resilience in every community. Climate change is not a distant threat. It is a pressing reality. It is already affecting every aspect of life. From the health of our people to the loss of coastlines, the destruction of infrastructure, and food and water insecurity. Rural communities, the elderly, women, children, and low-income households are especially vulnerable. The PNP will place environmental protection at the heart of national development. We will take bold, science-based action to build a greener, stronger, and more secure Jamaica. One where sustainability is not an afterthought, but a guiding principle for every ministry and every project. Now let us look at their approach. So, mainstream environmental protection across government. They will ensure every policy, plan, and project involving expenditure with the potential to have a material environmental impact includes a mandatory environmental impact review. They will strengthen coordination across ministries, departments, and agencies to integrate environmental priorities. They will launch a national public education program to promote environmental awareness and stewardship among citizens, legislators, and communities. They will advance environmental justice by ensuring vulnerable groups are protected in development decisions. Now, our environmental governance and legal reform. They will ratify the ESCAZU agreement to guarantee public participation, access to information, and environmental justice. They will amend the Natural Resources Conservation Authority Act to give NEPA greater autonomy and enforcement authority. They will situate NEPA within a ministry that does not have responsibility for driving economic growth, thereby reducing the structural conflict of interest in carrying out its mandate. They will establish an independent appeal mechanism for environmental decisions. They will support environmental NGOs and community-based organizations as partners in climate action. They will invest in environmental data research and valuation of natural assets to inform policy. Now let us look at resilience through waste and water management. They will replace open dumps with safe, scientifically designed landfills. They will develop a national waste management strategy based on circular economic principles. They will tackle toxic fires, leaching, and illegal dumping to protect water sources and ecosystems. They will introduce island-wide recycling initiatives supported by legislation and private sector partnerships. They will improve stormwater drainage and water conservation infrastructure to address both drought and flooding risk. Now let us look at the green financing and nature-based development, which is the final point in environmental resilience. They will pursue a debt for nature swap that allows Jamaica to restructure its debt while investing in environmental conservation. They will expand participation in global carbon credit markets to generate new revenue for climate action. They will attract climate finance and development assistance by showing strong environmental leadership. And finally, they will position Jamaica as a global leader in climate resilience and sustainability among small island development states. And their commitment is the PNP recognizes that the environment is not separate from the economy. It is the foundation of our survival and prosperity. We will transform environmental policy from words into action, ensuring that every Jamaican now and in the future can live in a country that is clean, resilient, and sustainable. Now, in conclusion, the Jamaica is at a crossroads. 63 years after political independence, we remain a society marked by stark class and color inequality. To continue down this path is to court disaster, a disaster that will eat away at our social fabric. Time come now. Come to change the course. Time come now. Come to build a different Jamaica, one in which all social groups work together to create a nation where there is economic opportunity for all, respect and dignity for all, and a justice system that treats every person the same, no matter who they are or where they live. Time come to reform an apartheid education system that leaves too many students unprepared for the demands of the modern world, unable to make a decent living, and without a deep understanding of our history and rich culture. Time come to feed ourselves, to create the conditions for true food security. Time come for workers to be treated like human beings. Time come for corruption to stop. Time come for we the people to have a regular say over the things that impact our lives and to hold those we elect accountable. Time come for a better health system that puts the patient first. Time come for every Jamaican who dreams of owning a home to have a real chance to do so. Time come for our creative talent to unleash its full potential upon the world. Time come for Jamaica to be nice for everybody, not just for a few. Time come for a new Jamaica. Time come to vote for the People's National Party, the party of change. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is the People's National Party's 2025 manifesto. And we just went through the pillars of their mission, Jamaica Love. Now, you can listen to this manifesto and listen to the plans that the People's National Party has if they are elected as the party to lead Jamaica in the next 5 years. So you can listen to this manifesto as well as the Jamaica Labour Party's manifesto and make your decisions on who you think will be the next best party to lead Jamaica into the future. Thank you for listening, and please like, share, subscribe, and leave your comments on if you think the People's National Party can live up to the mandates in this manifesto.